Turns 6 and 9 come into contact. That's happened to a number of them, certainly in race 1 yesterday, which was won by Sebastian Montoya, and today's opening race won from pole position by Gabriel Bortoleto. And what a race that one was. Certainly more safety car interventions, 2 in both race 1 and race 2. We hope we get this one through quite cleanly. But the big point of note from the second race earlier today was that Gabriel Mini was removed from the circuit in a battle for position. It was a 3-wide battle at the front of the field, and unfortunately he was forced into an early retirement. So far as this race is concerned, the high-tech team, no surprise, the most successful team in Formula 3 Asia Series in the past. 4 seasons of that, of course, the Formula 3 Asian Championship, but now we of course are the Formula Regional Asian Championship, rebranded, same cars, many of the same teams, a number of the same drivers. One of those, Thomas Liudi, won the Masters race earlier today. He's been a mainstay of this championship over past seasons. We'll see more of Thomas today, but for the fans of Gabriel Mini, the young Italian, eliminated in this morning's race, the team have the car back on the grid, and he will start from pole position by virtue of having set the fastest time in the second 15-minute session yesterday. So good news for the team, and we will see the way things line up. For Jack Crawford, he had a tough opening race, started in exactly the same position, qualified P2 in both Quali 1 and Quali 2, but couldn't get off the grid in the first race and fell all the way to rear of field, position 27, worked his way back through to 11th despite only 7 racing laps. So he'll be hoping for a lot more this time round. The second row will be taken up by Isaac Hadjar and Gabriel Bortoleto. The third row, Paul Aaron and Arthur Leclerc. And the fourth row, Pepe Marti and Lorenzo Flusha. So we'll go further down the grid. Lorenzo Flusha finished second in the race earlier today. It was a 3Y by RHGP 1-2. Of course, with Bortoleto taking that victory. If we go back to row 5, it's Jem Bologbasi and Oliver Goethe will start from positions 9 and 10. Goethe in position number 9. Position 11, Sebastian Montoya had a tough run in the second qualifying session, was set for P2 but had gone outside track limits, which had been a big thing during qualifying. The drivers were warned during drivers' briefing that they would be monitoring it, and that certainly has had an impact. So position 13, Leonardo Fornarelli, Josh Dufek in position number 14. 15, Freddie Lubin. 16, Hamda Al-Khabaisi. Levent Hervez on position number 17, and Hadrian David, who originally qualified in position 8, has been penalised as a result of race 2 this morning. 10 grid positions, he will start 18th. Yato Iwasaki 19th, 20th to Bryce Morabit, 21st to David Morales. Nicola Marinangeli was involved in some issues during that second race this morning. He's been penalised 5 grid spots, so he's down from 17th to 22nd. Amda Al-Khabaisi, 24th to Sally Jelic, who had contact, I think, with Khalid Al-Khabaisi. We didn't see it, but the 2 Masters drivers were running line astern early in the race earlier today, and they will start positions 24, 25. And Thomas Liudi, who we were alluding to earlier for the Black Arts Racing Team, former champion in the Masters category, has been on the podium a couple of times. He has been a mainstay. Surprisingly, he hasn't been in a race seat under race conditions for a couple of years, so this is his return to competition. He's very happy to be here, and very happy certainly earlier today to take out position number 1 in the Masters classification, and I believe from memory that was 15th overall. Now there has been a change to the race results as again a result of discussions with the stewards. In fact, they just came out mere minutes ago. The big change is that unfortunately for Oliver Goethe, who was eliminated in the opening race, he was reason for one of the 2 safety car interventions. He originally crossed the line in position 6, but the third of the 3Y by RHGP entries has now been sent back to 14th. So he's classified 14th. So the points that he was going to gain towards this championship, unfortunately, have evaporated. So he'll be looking to try and achieve something in this race from the inside of the 5th row of the grid. So great to see Gabriele Mini on left of screen. The young Italian caught up in the very close racing in the earlier race today. He wasn't the only one eliminated. In fact, in that incident, Dino Bogdanovic for the Mumbai Falcons was also wiped out. So that was a tough run for position. They were going through fairly tight parts of the circuit, using curbs and just unsighted. Of course, visibility certainly in a modern single-seater these days, with Hans devices and halos, all of which are very important on a safety aspect, does impact your vision, certainly peripherally, and that has caught a couple of the younger drivers unawares. Certainly we talk about younger drivers when 2/3 of this field is younger than 17 years of age, 17 or younger rather. Extract the Masters drivers from that equation and it's getting closer to 3/4 of the field. So they're young guys, some of whom are making their single-seater debuts. So they're really out to try and achieve something. It isn't just pre-season preparation for the various championships around the world they're going to contest, from Formula 3, FIA Formula 3 down to Formula Regional European Championship. Others are competing in different parts of the world, certainly F4 in the UAE, F4 in Italy, F4 in Spain. There's a large variety of drivers getting valuable miles behind the wheel of a Formula car here this weekend. The first major regional championship for open wheel is to kick off the year. Of course, the F4 UAE is competing also this weekend, so a number of drivers just getting their eye in to start the season. Gabriele Mini gets away. Jack Crawford will be doing absolutely everything he can, right of screen, qualified position 2, to make sure he gets off the line. Got an immediate jump, the green light in the opening race, just rolled a fraction forward, the car stalled. Fortunately, all the other drivers in the field were able to get around it. This wide Yas Marina circuit certainly gives them the opportunity to endeavour to avoid contact. Having said that, we're talking about it being narrow at points. Certainly when you're at speed trying to come down to a large change of direction from right to left or left to right, depending on where you are on the circuit, things do narrow down because there is one prime and optimum race line. So drivers will be looking for that. When they're trying to do that 2 or 3 wide, suddenly a wide circuit doesn't seem quite so wide, and that was part of the reason for the contacts and the retirements that we'd seen during the opening 2 races. I guess for a number of drivers too, the festive season has been time out of the car. It's potentially been time out of the simulator. So it's really a matter of dialing yourself back in. We talk about drivers being 16 or 17 years of age. That might not sound like they've got an awful lot of experience behind the wheel, but when you consider many of them have been karting from 4, 5, 6, 7 years of age, then they really do have a lot of racecraft under their belts. The thing that they'll be learning, of course, with the Formula Regional Asian Championship is the benefit of things like aerodynamics and slick tyres. These are harder compound, the GT radial, the GTR1 slick tyre that they are using. Excuse my error in using the word radial. They are a harder compound tyre, so it really does force the driver to learn to use that tyre. It doesn't have immediate grip. You're not talking about super softs and the various different compounds that we're used to seeing with Formula 1. This is a harder tyre compound. We saw that in qualifying where it took as many as 5 or 6 laps for the drivers to get that tyre up to temperature. That's something they need to consider. This is all part of building your experience and your racecraft. You don't want to get into a car that almost drives itself. It's not a Tesla. This is a Formula 3 specification TARDIS chassis, 1750 engine from Alfa Romeo. They're all identical. The tyres are identical. About learning. So if it's a little bit harder, it's a little bit more physical for a driver to learn in. That's what these team bosses want to see. That's what the team bosses in the higher formula want to see. They want to see these drivers achieve what they can. Gabriele Mini left of screen, Jack Crawford right of screen. Colours, the resplendent colours of Red Bull, you can see them quite clearly. He will be hoping upon all things that he can get off the line the way things stand at the moment. Tough gig for Gabriele Mini during that last race, but unofficially he still sits 5th in the championship points. The points leader after a 1st and a 4th place finish. That is race 1 winner Sebastian Montoya. He starts a little bit further back in this field from position number 11. It's the green flag. They're cleared to go. Once the lights are out, we're underway, and we are underway with race 3. Jack Crawford's got away, but Gabriel Mini had dramas. Oh, big contact rear of field. That's unfortunate. That's the sort of thing we don't want to be seeing. That was a fair hit too. Stationary car, unsighted by others. We managed to avoid that with Jack Crawford at the front of the field on the first race, and I'd hazard a guess this will be a red flag. Yes, I can see the red flags with the officials already. Let's just hope those drivers are okay. As they get round to the timing mark, we'll have a good idea of exactly who that was further back in the field, but certainly dramas this time for Gabriel Mini. He didn't get off pole position. Jack Crawford got away quite nicely, but red flag is the situation that we're under. Need to make sure that all drivers are safe. That's what all of this is about. So certainly the officials will be right onto that. The teams will have been watching on. They will come to the aid of those drivers, but that was a quite heavy hit. The safety built into these modern Formula cars, you can see it in some of the big incidents, certainly that have happened in past years in Formula 1. This circuit has seen its fair share, but these Formula 3 TARDIS chassis, very, very strong. They're designed with crash structures to avoid heavy impacts. Of course, the halo is a very important safety feature. And this is all part of open wheel racing. Unfortunately, that was one of the vagaries of the standing start. Now that could be Sully Jolic actually walking back into pit lane, the Turkish driver. Well, that's a good sign. Certainly walking, so he may well have been involved in that. Let's see if we can get an update. No, it's still... we might get a sector update shortly. The timing monitors, not much going on there right at the moment, and that might well update me on what current positions the drivers are in. But with a red flag, I expect perhaps we'll see a full restart, depending on what the damage is like, what's gone on out on track, and cleaning up the circuit, of course. That is all an important aspect of this. So unofficially, we're talking just prior to the start. As a result of a win in the opening race, 4th in the second race, Sebastian Montoya leads the championship provisionally on 37 points. Arthur Leclerc, who was 3rd in both race 1 and 2, his teammate in the Mumbai Falcons Racing Limited operation, is in position 2. Again, these are provisional and unofficial points. 30 to Sebastian Montoya's 37. Lorenzo Flusha, who finished 2nd in this morning's race, has been pretty consistent too. He's in position number 3. Gabriel Bortoleto, who was the runaway winner from the drop of the lights to the drop of the checkered flag in this morning's race, also on 26 points. So those two guys share position 3 in the championship. Gabriel Mini in position number 5, despite that drama. He finished 2nd in the opening race. No points, of course, after his retirement in race 2. Position 6, Leonardo Fornaroli on 14 points. Isaac Hadjar, rather. Position number 7 on 12. And then Dino Begonovic, Freddie Lubin and Joshua Dufek are tied on 10 points, 8th in the championship. Jack Crawford, position number 11 with 6 points. Levent Ereves with 2 points, position 12, and Amna Al-Kabaisi, by virtue of that penalty for Oliver Goethe, is 1 point in this championship after 2 races of 15. Now, it's not an awful lot of activity right of screen, but that's okay. They'll be tidying up the circuit, removing the damaged vehicle. Hopefully the driver is okay. So the way things sit at the moment, so Bortoleto has come in at the end of the lap as the race leader. So Gabriel Mini, who started on pole, is classified now as 16th. So what this does, as to whether they elect to start in the current order or whether we go back to a full race start, we're yet to be advised. Hopefully I can find some of that information out through the communications channels. Just trying to find some more information. So it was Bortoleto, Hadjar, Paul Aaron, Jack Crawford, Arthur Leclerc, Pepe Marti, Lorenzo Flusha, Oliver Goethe in position 8, Dino Begonovic in 9th, and Sebastian Montoya up 1 position to position 10. Leonardo Fornaroli in position 11 from Joshua Dufek, Hamda Alkabasi in 13th, Levent Erevez in position 14, Hadrian David in position 15, Gabriel Mini we're talking about in position 16, the pole sitter. That'll be frustrating for him after the dramas that he faced in the earlier race today. David Morales in position number 18, Bryce Morabit in position 19, Ayato Iwasaki 20, Khalid Alkabasi 21, Thomas Ludi 22. Now the drivers that are missing that we don't know too much about at the moment, by saying missing, they may be stopped out on circuit, but certainly Jem Bolak-Basi is classified 23, but doesn't appear to have returned. Amna Alkabasi, disappointing for her after finishing so strongly in the last race, also not back. And I think we did see Sally Jolic walking back to pit lane, the Masters driver. Freddie Lubin is also not listed in there as well. So certainly a lot of work for the teams to focus on now, just to get their drivers restarted. This is a tough test, but again, we're talking about the importance of development formula like this. The drivers will need to just understand that setbacks like this happen. You're dialed in, you're ready to go, you've got the race face on, you want to go racing, and then all of a sudden there's a break for an indeterminate amount of time. You have to be able to deal with that, get your head around it, and get back in the race car and act as if nothing's happened. Just get back to racing the way you needed to be racing, and try and not have to think too much about the delay or the setbacks, or the fact that maybe you've clipped someone, you've got some slight damage to the car, what that's going to do with getting your tyres back up to temperature and preparing for the race, where you are on track position. It's a whole bunch of unknowns, but this again is all sorts of things that they need to be learning. So safety car back at the start of the head of the field. Not an awful lot of activity. I've seen a number of drivers have jumped out of cars and probably gone for a bathroom break. Take this opportunity. They'll be well hydrated. Of course, they'll sweat a lot of that out. Having said that, it's a nice, comfortable 21 degrees. In fact, the humidity has dropped down to about 43%. The wind's still gusting sort of up to 30 kilometres an hour or so from the northwest, but certainly fine conditions. There was some discussion prior to the event that there may be some heavy rainstorms that may have affected qualifying yesterday. Fortunately, we saw none of that, but certainly we saw some very mixed qualifying sessions. And as we were talking about earlier in the piece, they've cracked down on track limits. So a number of drivers did fall foul of the stewards after the qualifying session. One of those, of course, was Sebastian Montoya, who'd smashed out a time good enough to be second for the start of this particular race. He would have started from the front row, but ultimately that time was disallowed. I think he was back to 12th and change in position as a result of some of the penalties. Just trying to work out which car that is disappearing off the track at the moment. May be one of the Alkabasi cars, actually. Doesn't appear to be an ambulance, which is always a very good sign. It's just a matter of moving cars from the circuit. The clock is still ticking, which is a point of note, because that would suggest that we won't be going to the full 30-minute race distance. Need to have a quick read back through the regulations as to see whether or not we will go full restart, or we will have a safety car restart now that we have that first lap in the books. But that information will be forthcoming before too much longer. It looks like they're clearing up the circuit quite quickly, which is good news. Not hearing too much from trackside, so that's always promising. We get back to action. So if we go back to qualifying from yesterday, the first qualifying session saw Sebastian Montoya take the top spot from Jack Crawford. Isaac Hadjar, Gabriel Mini, Arthur Leclerc, Dino Begonovich, Hadrian David, Paul Aaron, Lorenzo Flusha and Gabriel Bortoleto. The difference between those 10 drivers was just 73 100ths of a second. What was interesting was the difference between the top 4 was just 12 100ths of a second. In fact, just 6 1,000ths of a second between first and third. It was that close. Second session saw Gabriel Mini take the top spot. He went a little bit quicker. We had seen during testing, and the drivers had been here at Yas Marina doing some testing in the lead up to this event. Gabriel Mini was one of those who managed to get himself to the top of the timesheets. In fact, free practice 1, he topped free practice 1. Isaac Hadjar topped the third test session. The second test session was also a Isaac Hadjar benefit, and Gabriel Mini took the top spot in the first test session, the official time test sessions. They had done track time prior to that. The fastest time in all of that was Hadjar's second test session of a 51.271. We didn't see that in qualifying. There wasn't any yellow flags or setbacks during the session, so they ran clean, but we didn't see times break into the 51s for, well, until they'd run about 5 laps. Brand new tyres, of course. In the test sessions they can run rubber from previous seasons, or the previous season. The Compete GTR 1 tyres, there's 3 sets of slick tyres for all sessions from official free practice 1 through the end of the third race. So how the teams manage those will be the thing. Certainly different conditions here in the Middle East to what we'd seen in Asia the first couple of seasons. But the teams, the experienced teams, of which are all the teams, let's face it, in this field, will know how to manage those tyres. So they'll be getting the best of them. But during qualifying, it really was a slow process getting up to time. So it was no real surprise that in both his sessions, after the clock had ticked over 15 minutes, Sebastian Montoya clocked his quickest time. But the second session was Mini, Jack Crawford, Isaac Hadjar, Gabriel Bortoleto, Paul Aaron, Arthur Leclerc, Dino Begonovich, Hadrian David, Pepe Marti and Lorenzo Flusha were your top 10. Oliver Goethe was 11th and Chembalik Bassi was at 12th. In fact, Sebastian Montoya was in fact 13th. He was the second rookie. It's another part of the championship this year, and he obviously tops those points as a rookie. This is the first time he'd actually been to Yas Marina. But if you go back through his qualifying session, so he's on pole for Q1, he was 13th for Q2. A lot of people didn't really expect that, because in free practice he was 11th. In the third test session, time test session, he didn't actually get out on track. They had dramas with the car. The second session, he was 20th of the 26 cars on track. The first session, he was just 18th. So a number of people went, wow, where did that come from? Perhaps aside from his father, Juan Pablo Montoya. But certainly Sebastian showed what he was made of with that top qualifying position, and then lights out to checkered flag victory in the first race yesterday. It was under a little bit of pressure from the Red Bull drivers early in the piece, but as we came out of the first safety car period, he managed to give Jack Hadjar a bit of a run for his money across the line, timed the start perfectly, but probably more particularly, he actually got his tyre temperature pretty much spot on. Certainly it allowed him to pull a gap, and by the time we got to the second safety car intervention, he was out by almost 2.5 seconds. So Montoya certainly deserved that victory. But if you go on to race 2 earlier today, Gabriel Bortoleto, who'd finished 10th in the first race, he'd had a few dramas and a bit of contact early in the race. At one stage he admitted he was back as far as 22nd and worked his way back up to 10th. The starting grid for race 2, of course, was the inversion of the top 10 from race 1. He finished 10th. It translated into pole position for the second race, just like Montoya. From the drop of the lights all the way through to the drop of the flag, he was the race leader, despite, again, 2 safety car interventions. 7 laps we were behind the safety car and finished behind the safety car in the opening race. The second race, 3 laps behind the safety car. So we're 15 minutes into this 30-minute race, and currently we have 1 lap in the books. You wouldn't have expected that. But let's hope, because there is not very much news coming through at the moment, that everybody is okay, and certainly the teams now have about 5 days or so to get their cars across to the Dubai Autodrome for the next event on the calendar, and hopefully they can be repaired. More importantly, the drivers aren't hurt in any way and they're good to go and carry on this championship. 15 races, each of the 5 race weekends, all back to back, starting at Yas Marina, then Dubai, the GP circuit next weekend, the 5.39 kilometre longer circuit, the international circuit at 4.29 kilometres at Dubai in a fortnight's time, back to the GP circuit, the 5.39 kilometre circuit for round 4, and then the final round right back here at a circuit that is always providing plenty of action when it comes to open wheelers. We need not remind you of that great battle to close out the 2021 Formula 1 season. So what a place to finish this year's championship, which will be the 5th season of what is a new look Formula Regional Asian Championship. Cars are the same, engines are the same, tyres are the same, some of the teams are the same, many of the teams in fact are the same, some of the drivers also the same. But additionally, there was a number of drivers that are in the field this weekend who are only 12 years of age when this championship first fired up, all campaigning the Auto Technica built ATM AR F3R chassis. Composite carbon fibre crash structures in all the most important points. The halo built in, as it was right from the very beginning. In fact, it was one of the original case studies for the halo, and what a success that has been. Looks a little bit alien and still takes some of us that are a bit more old school a while to get around the vision of what it is, but there's no denying the benefit of the safety that it provides for all the drivers, and at the end of the day that is the most important thing. A 270 horsepower, 350 newton metre of torque, 4-cylinder turbocharged 1750 TBI Alfa Romeo engine, 1742 cc's, and of course the GT Compete GTR1 tyres that we've been running on now for 4 seasons. We're into our 5th season, and it has been a very good formula. Would be nice to have a little bit of news about what's going on site. Not much coming out at the moment, so we will press on. What's interesting again is that the clock is still ticking down. There is a full schedule of competition here this weekend. There's a number of categories competing, so it's good to see the last recovery vehicle leave the circuit. The brooms are out. Officials are just tidying up. Looked like a piece of carbon fibre just fall off the side of the truck. We're not hearing too much at the moment from race control. They've probably got their hands tied trying to work out how we regrid and get restarted. So stick with us. We will certainly keep you informed as we learn anything, but the vision's there. You can see what's going on. You can make your mind up for yourself, certainly if you've seen enough racing. When there is a time schedule, often it is time certain start to finish. The green flag indicated the start. The clock started ticking. We're down to 11.5 minutes, so we will see how things go beyond this point. 4 prior seasons of this championship. Number of winners. Most dominant winner of the Formula Regional Asian Championship after these 4 seasons has been Japan's Ukyo Sasahara for high-tech. Between the 2019 and the 2019-2020 season, which started in late 19 and carried over into 2020, 19 podiums for the Japanese driver from 30 races and 11 race wins. Jack Doohan, it's a name that'll be familiar to an awful lot of people, another second-generation racer, son of Australian motorsport royalty Mick Doohan. 10 victories also for high-tech, but he shared those victories between high-tech and Pinnacle Motorsport again in the 2019 and 2019-2020 championship. Sadly for the young Aussie, he finished second in both championships to Sasahara in 19 and to Joey Alders in 1920. Wasn't very much in it, and Doohan certainly showed that he was a talent. He did that in the FIA F3 series in 2021. It's great to see him getting towards the pointy end of the field and standing on the top step of the podium, and of course off to F2 in season 2022. Jake Hughes Now there's another name that has been synonymous with high tech, and he, in 2018, the inaugural season of the Formula 3 Asian Championship, certified by FIA, contested just 9 races, the young Englishman, and won all 9 races. Unfortunately, Rahul Hyman, his teammate for high tech, contested all 15 races to Jake's 9, won the championship by 2 points, despite winning just a single race. So a little bit of frustration for Jake, but he had his commitments in Europe. He couldn't do all the races, and that's just the way things play out. Pierre-Louis Chauvet, who was the standout driver so far as outright race wins for Pinnacle Motorsport last year in the 2021 Formula Regional Asian Championship, 6 wins last year, 7 podiums from the 15 races. He didn't win the championship, of course. That went to Guanyu Zhou, the new signing for the Alfa Romeo Formula 1 team. 257 points to Guanyu Zhou last year, and 241 points. We talk about the damage that retirements can do when a victory is worth 25 points. Guanyu Zhou came into the final round of the championship about 32 points down on Chauvet. Guanyu Zhou's results at this circuit, Yas Marina, for the last round of the 2021 championship: a win, a second, and a win. Pierre-Louis Chauvet, by contrast, 5th, a retirement, and 5th. Finished second in the championship. Now we're talking about the damage that Gabriel Mini's DNF in race 2 earlier today might do to his championship. There you've got 2 drivers who battled all the way to the final race of the 2021 season. Both of them suffered a retirement during the course of the year. So it is possible. What Gabriel Mini really needed was to do exactly what his rivals Sebastian Montoya and Gabriel Bortolito had done during their 2 pole position starts: lead from start to finish. Maximum hauler points. He's right back in the championship hunt. Provisionally at the moment, he is 5th in the championship points. He's on 18 by virtue of his second place finish in race 1. That's a good 19 points behind Sebastian Montoya, who provisionally is on top. We've got 7 minutes left in this race. If they do manage to restart it, then let's see. Again, it could also be declared. We haven't done 75% race distance. We've done 1 lap. So what does that mean? Will we not classify points? If that's the case, then damage limitation. So suddenly we're racing for 14 races. Assuming, of course, that we get through all 14 and we don't suffer the dramas that we've faced for this 3rd race. But what an interesting start. If you're going to have a baptism of fire to kick off the year, certainly for a lot of young drivers that are stepping up into these higher formula, then really you can't find a better place to do it than Yas Marina nor the Formula Regional Asian Championship. It's a great opportunity for all these drivers to dial themselves in for the year ahead. Of course they're fit, of course they're ready to go, of course they've been on simulators, of course they've been training, but there is no substitute for track time. Bums in seats on a racetrack, turning laps, that is the most important thing. And at the moment, that sadly is not happening. We're down to 6.5 minutes and still waiting for some sort of news as to what exactly is going to happen. So we wait and we watch. We're talking about the most successful drivers in this championship over the previous 4 seasons. We also talk about the most successful teams in the Formula Regional Asian Championship and High Tech, in the guise of High Tech GP, but also in the guise of Dragon High Tech GP as they kicked off the 2018 season, which saw Rahul Hyman and Jake Hughes take most of the victories that season. 27 victories in the 4 seasons to date for Dragon High Tech. Pinnacle Motorsport, they too have seen success. 15 victories for them. Black Arts Racing, who took Joey Alders to the championship a couple of years back, 3rd position with 6 wins in this championship. Abu Dhabi Racing by Prema. Of course, they have 4 victories to their names. Absolute Racing, who sadly no longer compete in the Formula Regional Asian Championship. They were a mainstay for the first couple of seasons. Very successful GT team based in Asia, bases in Sepang in Malaysia, also in, looks like there's some discussion going on down there with officials as to what is going on. Not a lot of movement, which is not a good sign with 4.5 minutes to go. In fact, the drivers are standing off to left of screen with helmets in hand, so I'm not liking the look of this at the moment with respect to a restart. Again, we're still waiting on information. We don't have too much coming our way just yet. There's a couple of apologies from people up in race control that they've got their hands full. So we'll see how that goes. Absolute Racing, 5th most successful team with 3 wins. The Mumbai Falcons, well, sadly, they jumped Absolute because they took a victory yesterday with Sebastian Montoya. So they're now up to 4. Evans GP were 7th with 1 win, but of course they are now sharing that position with the 3Y by R Ace GP team, who Gabriel Bortoleto took to victory in race 2 this morning. Okay, so there's some news for those of you who've managed to see what's going on whilst I've been prattling on with some history. The clock is now set at 27 minutes, and that bodes well for the chance of us being able to race. Now, we were scheduled for 2:35 p.m. local time. There is a large number of categories competing over the 3 days. However, there is some flexibility with lights, of course, and running longer into the day, so maybe they've elected to just extend the schedule with 27 minutes left on the clock. Makes for a long night at my end, but certainly, well, the clock started to tick down. Well, it's just gone 26:59. That's a long second. We may well see racing. Now, drivers appear to be getting into cars. I don't see them off on left of screen now, which is a good sign. 5-minute board will be at 15:25, so that's in 4 minutes time. This is good news for everybody concerned. Unfortunately, we will be without a couple of cars. I would gather that Jem Bullock-Basie would be out, Amnal Kabasi and Sally Jolic will be having an early shower. So that's potentially 3 cars gone. Looks like comm systems going in ears. Balaclavas going on in a couple of cases. Helmets going on. This is good news. So we might just take a quick 30-second break, and before very much longer we'll be right back with you and underway at last with the 3rd race of the 2022 Formula Regional Asia Championship. at 60 seconds to go, and we should be back to cars on track, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Track conditions just about spot on. Ambient temperature about 21 degrees, humidity only about 40%, so it'll be lovely for the drivers, not too uncomfortable. We usually associate this part of the world with immense heat, but we've been fortunate. The days have been quite mild, the morning's a little bit cooler. Humidity has actually decreased the last couple of days, 60%, 50%, now down to about 40%. So hopefully that's not going to play a factor. The wind has been gusting up as high as 35 kilometres per hour. So at different parts of the circuit that will affect the cars, but again, it's just another element of what you have to deal with. As they say, it's the same for everybody, so it's how you approach that, it's how the teams set the cars up for that, it's how the drivers position the cars with respect to that. So it's been some pretty stellar racing so far, the last two races. A little bit of contact. Some of that is just getting used to the cars that they're in. Some of it too is also, let's face it, muscle memory's a big thing. It's something you need to reprogram as often as you can. Different vehicles you drive, the better it is, but certainly going from a kart to a Formula 4 car to a Formula 3 car, you have physical differences, obviously performance differences, but where the car's positioned on the track relative to where you are seated in the car. We talk about go-karters talking about lines being millimetre perfect. Well, that gets translated across to these bigger formula, but where your wheel is sitting near your left wheel sitting near your left foot, front left wheel of course, and your right front wheel is sitting near your right foot in a go-kart, things start to stretch out. Your position in the car relative to where the four corners are, they are things you just have to reprogram your brain to be able to process. So all of these things are important. Again, it's track time, it's being on track, it's not sitting in a simulator, it's not sitting on a couch at home waiting for the next race weekend. That's why an event and a championship like this with 5 weeks back to back to kick off the year is perfect for aspiring young drivers that are looking to just get themselves ready for the season ahead. Things appear to be moving on monitors. We have passed that magic 3:25 p.m. mark. Some 50 minutes after we were originally scheduled to start the race. There had been a little bit of delay beforehand by about 10 or 15 minutes, so we're probably down about half an hour on where we were. We've got 27 minutes of racing. Let's hope all the contact is done with and we can get down to what we're all here for. It's watching some good, hard, old-fashioned wheel-to-wheel racing amongst some of the sharpest young rising talents to come from different areas of the world. 2/3 of the field, 17 or 16 years of age. And that's, you take the 3 Masters drivers who are Masters. We're not getting into age differences once we get to that point. But you've got 6 drivers who are 16, 11 drivers who are 17, 2 are 18, 1 19-year-old, 1 20-year-old, 2 21-year-olds, and a veteran at 23 years of age. I think that veteran, Jamie, will be taking no further part in this race. There's a question mark next to his name at the moment. I think there were 3 cars involved in that incident off the start, further back in the field, and if Jem's one of those, let's just have a look. Amna Alkabasi, have a look at where they were. Track position is, we started the race about half an hour ago, grid for race 3. So Jambulik Basie was starting from position 10. Amna Alkabasi was starting from position number 23. And Sally Yelich was starting from position number 24. So one would suggest that perhaps it was Jembuluk Basie's car that stopped, or stalled rather, on the grid. We were busy looking at the cars at the front of the field, and of course one of those was Gabriel Mini, who off pole position just didn't get away. He suffered the misfortune that Jack Crawford suffered during yesterday's opening race from position 2, where he just didn't get off the line. He rolled forward immediately, and then the car just stopped, and the entire field flowed past, dropped back to 26th position, and worked his way back in the 7 racing laps to position 11. So certainly the young Red Bull Junior Team entry, Jack Crawford, was very impressive with his ability to work his way back through the field. So what can he do from front of the field? He's currently sitting in position number 4, so he got jumped a little bit off the start, but the winner of this morning's second race, Gabriel Bortoleto, is certainly classified as the leader. Well, safety car, that's good. We're going to see cars rolling. Is it going to be a safety car restart? I'm tipping it probably will be, but I can tip all I like. I'm not the race director. I'm not the officials making the decision. I'm the muppet on the end of the microphone, just explaining what's going on to the world with the information I have at hand and the vision that we can all see in front of us. But the important thing is these cars are now running out on track. A couple of cars just slow to get started. Clock's ticking, but with any luck we will see at least 25 minutes of racing. Cars still leaving pit lane, which is not ideal, as the leaders head down towards turn 5. They really need to get their acts together. I mean, having said that too, you're putting a bit more speed into the tyres, as we often see with F1. The leader tries to slow the field up as much as they can to ensure that they're all, as much as possible, running a similar tyre temperature. But if you're charging through from the back, although locking brakes isn't a wise move, it could have been one of the Abu Dhabi Racing by Prema entries, red and white livery, Evans GP in the blue and black and white for the 3Y by R Ace GP, and that may well have been the black, red and white, the iconic colours of the Black Arts racing operation. Below Brian and his crew with Thomas Ludi. But up front is Bortoleto, Isaac Hadjar, Paul Aaron, Jack Crawford, Arthur Leclerc, Pepe Marti, Lorenzo Flusha, Oliver Goethe, Dino Begonovic and Sebastian Montoya are your top 10. So they're giving them time to get some temperature into the tyres, which is certainly a very wise move. You don't want them streaming down to turn 1 for a hard stop with cold tyres, not as tightly knit as they currently are. As much temperature into those GT slick tyres as they can. Just monitoring information in a couple of different screens at the moment just to see where we're up to. Let's hope everybody's out and running. They look like there's a trail behind the safety car, so I would suggest at the end of this lap we'll see safety car in and we will be back underway, and I'd be wrong, so don't take too much note from the information that I have at hand, because my screens aren't updating nearly as quickly as the action is happening on track. So we're going around one more time. Yes, there's a couple of cars still down further down the track. Be a little bit of cement dust on the circuit, perhaps, to just absorb rather some of that. Okay, so Gabriel Mini's now, I've missed this whilst trying to keep up to date with what's going on. From what I understand, Gabriel Mini's now back to the front of the field, and we look like we might be going back to a complete restart. They might be trying to order the grid for a safety car restart as per what the qualifying order was. My past experience in motorsport, I'm not sure that'll work out so well, so it could well be we're going to come back, reform the grid and get ready for a race start. All will soon be revealed. Looks like lights are off on the safety car, so that's promising. As for, no it's not. I withdraw that last comment. If we can get 20 minutes of good close racing, that would be ideal. Safety car in at the end of this lap. Okay, so somebody's heard. And we are back to the order of qualifying, which is fantastic news for Gabriel Mini. An absolute blessing for the young Italian after dropping right back down to, I think we talk about 16th, I think he was classified at the close of that first segment. And it looks like we're not having a full grid restart. We're back underway by the look of things. Gabriel Mini is leading them around. (14, 15, 16). I suggest that we'll be very close to a restart. Single file. Now, the young Italian needs to put his head down and charge. He's capable of it. He's shown that in multiple sessions so far this week. And the young Italian crosses the line to lead the field around. 3 laps now in the books. What can he do? What can Jack Crawford do? It's a bit of a blessing too for the young American. He had such a tough run at the first start. Looks like Montoya's back there defending fairly hard from teammate Dino Begonovic. Just trying to break the toe. One of the, looks like the 3 Mumbai Falcons racing entries are nose to tail. But Arthur Leclerc should be further forward. Yes, he is further forward. That's the battle side by side for the driver from Monaco. So he's managed to nip in behind Paul Aaron. What can Jack Crawford do? But Isaac Hadjar's been a bit of a sensation too so far. He's been wrong-footed in the opening race when he was in position 2. Got caught out outside a sausage curb, and that unfortunately allowed Mini and Leclerc to run past him. A bit of side-by-side action. Oh, again, we're talking about how hard the curbs are. You don't want to hit them too hard. That can cause some drama. There's a couple of the high-tech drivers further back. Fornaroli, Joshua Dufek, his teammate behind him. And Al-Kabasi, she's in there in the mix, position number 14. So that was a battle for position number 12 between Fornaroli and Dufek. And behind Montoya and Begonovic. So fastest lap, no surprise, the fastest final sector, fastest second sector to Gabriel Bortolito, but it's Gabriel Mini who's set the fastest lap with 1:53.8 on his first flyer off the restart. He leads by 1.19 seconds over Jack Crawford. Isaac Hadjar 3/10 further back. Gabriel Bortolito 3/10 further back. Paul Aaron a second back, half a second back to Arthur Leclerc. Pepe Marti, Lorenzo Flusha. You can see the numbers there on screen. It's nice and close. Andrea Al-Kabasi back in position 15. Hadrian David up to 14 now. Levent Erevasili looking to try and make something go. Oh, here's the two Red Bull drivers side by side. Crawford and Hadjar. Marinangeli is going to be investigated after the race. They need to be very careful. This is tight. That's going to open the door for Gabriel Bortoleto, and he doesn't need a second invitation. What does the Brazilian driver have? What can he use here? This has been great. Just what he wanted to see. The two Red Bull drivers, one for Abu Dhabi Racing by Premier, that is Crawford. The other for High Tech Grand Prix, that is Isaac Hadjar. He wants to see them racing. He's trying to get around the outside of Isaac Hadjar. Is he going to pull it off? I think he might too. Now he's going after Crawford. Crawford's defending with everything he has. Hadjar's going to try and hold around the outside. Try for the crossover. I'm not sure he's going to pull it off there. This is fantastic racing. Good, hard, wheel-to-wheel action. Just what we want to see. No more contact, guys. We want to get this one through. Let's go all the way through without safety car this time round. And what this is doing is allowing Gabriel Mini to just extend his lead. It's out now to 2.4 seconds. He picked up 1.3 seconds that last time round. 153.7. It's not setting the world on fire yet, but those GT tyres are still getting themselves up to temperature. But he's disappeared off into the distance. Crawford will be keen to try and break away from Bortoleto, because the young Brazilian really showed in the race this morning just how quick he can be. Isaac Hadjar, wrong-footed again that time round, tried to stick with it, but just opened the door there for Bortoleto to get through. Now that's allowed Paul Aaron and Pepe Marti to close up. Arthur Leclerc has just lost a position to Marti, so the Mumbai Falcons driver back to position 7 and now under fire from Lorenzo Flusha, with Oliver Goethe and Sebastian Montoya unable to make up position. Oh, big dive down the inside. So Hadjar's taken that position back. Oh, somebody's run wide too. Got to be careful rejoining. And that's one of the Mumbai Falcon entries too, by the look of it. That could have been Leclerc. So he need to be very careful to make sure he doesn't give up too many positions as Hadjar defends hard from Bortoleto, and that's allowing the door to open. Paul Aaron's going to get involved in this conversation too, thank you very much. The Abu Dhabi Racing by Premier entry. The number 3. Pushing hard, just trying to put his nose into the equation as well. So it's Mini, Jack Crawford, Bortoleto, and Isaac Hadjar under fire. Really tight at the front of this field. Across the line one more time. Out to 3 seconds now for Gabriel Mini. Jack Crawford position 2. Isaac Hadjar position 3. Bortoleto, Marti, Aaron, Leclerc back to position 7. Lorenzo Flusha, Oliver Goethe. Sebastian Montoya still stuck back there in position number 10 and seemingly unable to do much about it. The second in the rookie classification. It's being led at the moment by Pepe Marti. Number 23 entry didn't have a great Saturday. Qualified too badly, but involved in contact. You can see those orange roll hoop covers of the it's the top of the halo, I think, of the Mumbai Falcons racing entries, so they're quite easy to pick. Just trying to keep tabs on all the timing monitors. We go around 53.29 last time round for Gabriel Mini, so he's clear. He's gone and clear. This is exactly what he wanted to do, exactly what he needed to do for the championship. This puts him right back into the hunt. 25 points on top of his current 18. That'll put him up to 43 points. And the way Sebastian Montoya is going, he's going to add just a solitary point to his 37. So this is just the tonic that Gabriel Mini needed in this race. Arthur Leclerc back in position number 7, so his championship haul's not going to climb an awful lot higher. He's got a little bit of work to do too, so they'll be very keen to try and move forward. Hadjar, well, he's still in the championship hunt, but no points after a drama in the second race. We're not quite sure exactly what happened there. He was right up at the top of the standings, certainly well inside the top 5 as we went into the second safety car period earlier today, and came down pit lane before the field was able to restart, and basically that was game over for him. He did manage to rejoin, but he's classified 2 laps down. In fact, I don't think he did rejoin. Looking at the classification, he would have just completed enough to be classified as a finisher, but certainly just before the finish of the race and the restart, he'd pulled out. More slipstreaming going on. Crawford second, Hadjar under fire from race 2 winner Bortoleto. Further back, look at the Masters racing. Khaled Al-Khabaisi in position number 20. Thomas Liudi immediately behind him. He's only 2/10 of a second behind Khaled Al-Khabaisi, Thomas Liudi. That is further back in position number 20 and 21. Hamda Al-Khabaisi is unfortunately going a little bit further backwards. She's now back to 17th. Bryce Morabit and Ayato Iwasaki immediately behind her, as again Bortoleto tries to make a move on a very wide Isaac Hadjar. He's not keen to open the door, the young Frenchman, but he's also keen to try and keep that fight going with Jack Crawford. There's bragging rights, especially when you're part of the same junior team. Both of those drivers wearing the colours of Red Bull for a reason. Gabriel Mini for High Tech Grand Prix comfortably out front, although the gap's just dropped off a little bit. He's eased the pace last time round, 2.7 seconds. Looks to be settling into a little bit of a rhythm. Montoya's still not moving forward. He's a second back from Lorenzo Fluscher and Oliver Goethe in front of him. So not much going on with the championship points leader, visually. Dino Bogdanovic 0.3 of a second behind him. As the car's on screen. The 2 Mumbai Falcons Racing Limited entries. Oh, wide there too. Who was that? Was that Bogdanovic? He may have dropped a position. Hopefully that wasn't Montoya. To try and keep his championship run alive. Was it the 46? No, I don't think it was. I think it may well have been Dino Bogdanovic. Now, Oliver Goethe has just got past Lorenzo Fluscher for position number 8. And Hadrian David has just moved up on Leonardo Fornarelli for position number 12. Fastest first sector of the race by Arthur Leclerc in position number 7. He's closing down the gap to Paul Aaron ahead of him, just under half a second. Hadjar, track limits. Hadjar in the number 23. Sorry, Hadjar's in the number 6. The number 23, of course, is Pepe Marti. He's doing a great job moving further forward in the Pinnacle Motorsport entry. Being warned of track limits. It's something they were certainly told about during the driver's briefing. See the bollard in the middle of the corner there on the apex. It's one thing you really want to be avoiding with an open wheel. That said, modern day GT car is certainly something you want to try and steer clear of bollards and big curves with 2:52.947 for Arthur Leclerc, quickest on track. Just taken that position away from Paul Aaron and moved up to 6th. Front of him, there's a little bit of work to do. Pepe Marti's 1.1 seconds further up, which is 0.4 of a second behind this great battle for position number 2. Gabriel Mini just pacing himself at the front of the field. A 53 dead last time round, a 53.2 for Jack Crawford. He's fastest of the race so far. The pace at the moment, though, fastest lap of the race, a 52.947. For Arthur Leclerc last time around in position number 6. You can see the race order on the left of screen. Position number 20, just to add to that, Khaled Al-Khabaisi and Thomas Liudi, 21. Frederick Lubin has dropped well back. He's taken a visit to pit lane at some point. and he is in position number 22 and going to try and work himself back into the equation. I can see the two Masters entries battling for the top spot on the run down at turn 6 and 7. The line astern at the moment. As this battle, this great battle towards the front of the field goes on. The Golf colours, very famous and iconic in motorsport. One-off livery last year in the F1 series by the McLaren team. Brought that back to life, but certainly that's a colour scheme that we love to see. So that's the battle between Montoya and Flusha further in front. Down to 3 pit laps in the books with 7 minutes 20 to go. Jack Crawford holding position 2 by 7/10 of a second over Isaac. You can see on screen now. Oh, dive down the inside for position. That was Lorenzo Flusha. No, it's a little bit further back. It's behind Montoya. That was Adrian David having a look at Montoya. Oh, very close to running onto the grass. Talk about protecting position. There is absolutely no way he's going to allow Montoya to try and get back down the inside. So he's going to have to go around the outside. Go for the switchback. It's a good move by Adrian David. Takes back the position. So that would drop Montoya down to position number 11. It goes on though. Oh, a little bit of wheel banging. Trying to get that position back. Very aggressive from the American-based Colombian. Shades of his father. Just making sure that he shows exactly which piece of circuit really does belong to him and what he wants to be running. Dino Begonovic just behind his teammate now, keeping a close eye on what's going on, but Montoya back to position number 11. My timing monitor has him in position 10, so that's giving me some level of confusion. Television screen clearly shows in position 11. We just saw that passing move by Adrian David to bring him up. So Pepe Marti's moved up to position 4 whilst we've been looking at this fight a little bit further back. So he'll be next one on screen behind Isaac Hadjar. He's just closing in ever so slightly on Jack Crawford. Gabriel Mini is just controlling his pace at the front of the field. Now, they're at the end of their tyre life. They can pretty much do what they want unless they want to run tyres over into the next event, which they most certainly can do. They need to have that all signed off, of course, but coming into this event, for some of these drivers, it's a chance to have some fresh rubber for what's effectively pre-season testing. Once official practice had started yesterday, 3 sets of tyres to get themselves through the weekend. They are a hard-wearing compound tyre, there's no question about that. So how you manage those tyres and the drop-off, which is relatively negligible at times, certainly it seems that way with the circuits here in the Middle East. More data will be available for that as we get further into this championship, but the tyre compound has proven to be fairly durable. It puts the emphasis back on the driver being able to maximise their own performance behind the wheel, and at this stage of a driver's development, that's exactly what these team bosses are looking to see. So Isaac Hadjar last time round, fastest lap of the race at 1:52.78. We suggested he was closing in on Jack Crawford. He's got even closer. So what does the high-tech driver have? Looks like a couple of the Evans GP entries further back. That may be Levant Araves and Nicola Marinangeli fighting for position. Next one back would be Hamda Al-Kabaisi. So that's fighting for position 15, 16 and 17. And further back, she of course is driving for Families Abu Dhabi Racing by Prema team, who were the champions last year, of course, with China's new Formula One hopeful Guanyu Zhou, the 2021 Formula Regional Asian champion. 3 minutes to go. Mini, Crawford, Hadjar, Pepe Marti, Bortoleto, Arthur Leclerc, Paul Aron, Lorenzo Flusha, Oliver Gota. Adrian David has maintained that position ahead of Montoya, and it seems that there's not much Montoya can do about it. So perhaps Montoya has used up his tyre life. He might have done that during those 2 qualifying sessions and then made the best of his tyres for the first 2 races. You couldn't deny that strategy because currently he leads the championship points, but the way things stand at the moment, provisionally, and this is an unofficial tally, Gabriel Mini will add 25 to his 18, which would give him 43. Now Arthur Leclerc is moving forward. He will potentially finish 6th and get a haul of 8 points, which would move him up to 38. Ooh, that was that running wide. Well, there's a couple of cars running wide, so really pushing hard, looking for position. It's a couple of the 3Y by R Ace GP entries. That could have been Flusha and Goethe. It's looking back at positions 8, 9 and 10. With just 1:42 to go in this race. Gabriel Mini on track to not just recover from the setback of race 2, but to add a victory to his 2nd place finish in the opening race and provisionally move himself into the lead of the championship points and put himself right back in the box seat. Consistency is what it's about. The past champions have regularly run at least 13 of the 15 races inside the top 5 in each race. So Sebastian Montoya, who started so strongly, has a little bit of work to do if he's going to start to move forward. He's got Dino Begonovic is there. It looks like Oliver Goethe has been ejected out a little bit further back. He's now shown in position number 12. So the 2 Mumbai Falcons Racing Team entries have made up a position. So Montoya's back to a championship point, and he'll be looking to try and make an even bigger move further forward. He's now currently 2 seconds down on Hadrian David in front of him, so that's going to be a tall ask with 35 seconds left in this race. That's what you call defence. There was very little chance that Paul Aron was, or was that Bortoleto? In fact, that's Bortoleto. That is... Arthur Leclerc has just moved up to position number 5, so there's a couple more points in the bag. This will keep him right in the hunt. It should keep him 2nd in the championship to Gabriel Mini. That's assuming Mini can complete this lap. He's going to get to the line. Oh, has he made it? I'm not sure he has. I think he crossed the line just prior to the clock winding down. I don't see anything that says the race is finished. No, leader on last lap on the scoring monitor. So this is good news. Gabriel Mini has 1 more lap to go. 2.7 seconds the advantage. The good news is that these races further back in the field. Bortoleto and Leclerc. Pepe Marti is just 7 tenths back from Isaac Hadjar, who's a similar margin back from Jack Crawford. And there's a couple of the 3Y by R-Ace GP entries. That's Hadrian David and Lorenzo Flusha battling with Paul Aron in front. Aron in the Abu Dhabi Racing by Premier entry. Now here's the battle for position number 2. I think he can almost give the bickies to Gabriel Mini. He's not too far away, but what will happen for the lower steps of the podium? It looks like being a Red Bull benefit. Second place start to a 2nd place finish, and for Isaac Hadjar this will be important points too to keep him right in the championship hunt. So certainly a mixed up weekend for the first round of the Formula Regional Asian Championship. It's just the way we want to see it. Clock is well and truly winding down to 0. Just a couple of corners to go, and Gabriel Mini will be able to taste the sweet taste of success. Victory to the young Italian. He's not quite there yet. but he can feel it through the final corner, across the line, just about. And that will be victory to Gabriel Mini. Jack Crawford across the line in position number 2. Isaac Hadjar in position 3. Pepe Marti holds on to position number 4. Arthur Leclerc takes position number 5. Gabriel Bortoleto, who won race 2 this morning, classified in position number 6. Paul Aron in 7. Lorenzo Flusha in position number 8. Hadrian David. Sebastian Montoya, the provisional points leader, crosses the line in position number 10 and quite likely drops back to 3rd in the championship point standings as a result. His teammate Dino Begonovic in position number 11. Joshua Dufek, position 12. Levent Ereves in position number 13. Nicola Marin Angeli in position number 14, the Evans GP driver. Hamza El Kabasi up to position number 15. Ayate Iwasaki for Pinnacle Motorsport in 16th. Bryce Morabit in position 17. Oliver Gerd, unfortunately for him, running so strongly in the top 10 there at one stage, back to position number 18. So some drama for the third of the 3Y by our Ace GP entries. Thomas Ludi follows Khalid Al-Kabasi across the line. Very little in that battle from start to finish in the Masters division. And Frederick Lubin is classified in position number 21 as the last of the 26 finishes. Now the number 5 entries just come to a stop. Not sure exactly what's going on there. That's Leonardo Fornaroli, who was classified a couple of laps back. So in the end, 15 laps in the books for the second time today. 14 laps during the opening race, half of which were impacted by the safety car. But in the end, it was good to see, despite that pretty nasty crash off the start. We've not heard too much word just yet on the conditions of the drivers, but that could also mean that people are getting on with racing. We don't need to confirm that they're all okay, because they are all okay. But keep tabs certainly on the social media platforms and the f3asia.com website for updates. But what a great result after what could have been a pretty disastrous race start for Gabriel Mini from pole position. You'll see it on the replay quite likely. He just didn't get off the line. Ultimately, Isaac Hadjar got to the front. But then, of course, that incident with what seemed to be a stalled car, or a car that certainly didn't get underway off the start. We saw some contact that brought out the red flag. We had a break of about half an hour, and ultimately we restarted this race. But as for a final result from this third race, you can see from what the race director has just brought up, which is roughly half the field, needs to come and see the race director after the race, or certainly the stewards. It could be a long night for some of these drivers. So again, results are provisional. The championship points are unofficial and provisional. So having said that, it is more than likely that Gabriel Mini, who has taken his first win for the year from pole position, seems to be the trick. You set pole position at Yas Marina, and quite likely you are going to go on and convert that into a race victory. First race start didn't start so well. Second race start behind safety car worked well and truly into the hands of Gabriel Mini. Jack Crawford started from position 2. The 2 front row starters finished first and second. Linus Stern and Isaac Hadjar, the second of the Red Bull supported drivers, in position number 3. Pepe Marti, a great recovery after a torrid opening race, recovers for position 4. And Arthur Leclerc well and truly in this championship after 2 third place finishes and a 5th for the Mumbai Falcons team. Gabriel Bortoleto, race 2 winner in position 6. He's right in this championship hunt. Good recovery from Paul Aron, who didn't have a great run during the first 2 races. In fact, hasn't managed to get himself onto the championship point score until this point. Lorenzo Flusha, second this morning, position 8. Hadrian David, good recovery for him too after a tough run in the first 2 races. Sebastian Montoya, provisionally the championship points leader coming into this race, more than likely back in 3rd position at the close of this one by finishing in position 10, the last of the point scorers. Dino Begonovic, position 11. Joshua Dufek in position 12. Levent Revez in position 13, Nicola Marinangeli in position 14. Hamda Al-Kabasi in P15, ahead of Ayato Iwasaki, Bryce Morabit, Oliver Goethe, Khaled Al-Kabasi, Thomas Ludi, and Frederick Lubin. Take a look at a quick replay at some points, quite likely, and then that's a sign off from us. But make sure you join us in about 6 days' time. We will be at Dubai for the second round of the championship. That was the aborted start, and then we were under red flag. Safety car restart. Gabriel Mini did everything he needed to work his way through to victory and get himself provisionally into the championship points lead. Thanks for joining us. We will see you again in 6 days' time for round 2 of the 2022 Formula Regional Asian Championship.